roadmap was there. Like, and you know what a girl is because she be on social media 24 hours a day. You know exactly where she is, whether she's filming from her house, whether she's on her way to a show or booking somewhere. Like, y'all can catch her at the damn airport. Like, we know where the girl is. She hasn't been hiding. I'm confusion. Don't be nice to El Teddy. He time. Wait a minute. How did El Teddy time you out? Aren't you a mod? Did she leave before the police showed up? Here's the thing. She probably did leave before the police showed up. But here's what I'm going to say about that. So what? They know who she is. Go knock on her door. You know what I mean? It's not like it was like, well, we don't know who did it. It was some random fan that just pushed through the crowd. We literally know who did. Like, she left that night and went to a club. Like, because they were being rude in El Teddy's chat. Were they being rude in your chat? El Teddy was trying to get control of the classroom. So, Tracy, it sounded like you was cutting up. Nobody, your fellow classmates do not have your back on this one, Tracy. It sounds like it was you and not him. It sounds like it was you and not him. Oh, thank you, Tracy. We're glad she made it safely. Okay, you ready? All right. So now I'm going to bring up my boo thing, Simone attorney, Simone Redwine, aka Girl Is That Legal, and I want to welcome. Are you streaming from your platform?
I am. Thank you for reminding me because last time I forgot.
Okay.
Yes.
So we also want to welcome all of the Girl Is That Legal clan. What do you call your people over there?
I think I gotta get up a name for us, but I think I want us to be the jury. The jury.
Okay, so y'all. Okay, so we want to welcome the jury. We're going to welcome the jury,
Yes.
and if you are not subscribed to, if you are a part of the tribe and you're not subscribed to Girl Is That Legal, you guys make sure you get over there, and vice versa. If you're part of the jury, you can come on and subscribe to the tribe. We have a good time over here, and we cut up. So I know you were getting everything ready. First of all, I like your setup, boo.
Thank you. I'm working on it. And
I like it.
yes.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say, I don't know if you heard my rant. I just went on about the whole Krishan thing, but I do like. I know you're not a criminal defense attorney, but I don't understand. It seems to me like that is very basic. She was there. Everybody knows who she is. Everybody knows who he is. It sounds like there was no question that an assault took place. 911 was called. The police showed up. Even if she left before the police got there, she's Krishan Rock. She's literally on live all day, every day. Why did this take 3 months? Like, I'm confused.
I'm confused too.
On November the 10th. It is February the 7th.
I'm confusion too, because we know LAPD knows how to find people the way that they found Killer Mike 6 seconds after he accepted his Grammy and toted him off in handcuffs for what's rumored to be a few misdemeanor charges. Okay. So LAPD apparently can find who they choose to find. So my guess was perhaps, now I don't know if this is charged. I think it is charged as a felony against her right now. The current charges?
I think so. Hold on, I'm gonna go back to the article.
Yeah, double check while you look. I'm pretty sure they're going to charge it because part of it was aggravated assault with a deadly weapon for the brass knuckles.
So they're charging her with assault with a deadly weapon and battery. That sounds like a felony. Assault with a deadly weapon. I mean, I don't know the penal code of LA, but I don't know.
You know what? Yeah, deadly weapon. So in Texas, deadly weapon used to have a misdemeanor option. It does not anymore. So I would assume, but we'll see. So the only thing I could think of is that if it was a misdemeanor, they were lackadaisical about it. Because, LAPD, they got real crimes. They got real problems. So if it's being charged, or if initially they were thinking of charging it as simply a misdemeanor. Now, the other thing that may have been happening is the determination on whether it goes from a misdemeanor to a felony, or even I think it's the aggravated assault with serious injury, is dependent upon how expensive that injury is. Meaning, how much medical care did you have to give? So one thing could be is they were waiting for him to reach whatever the dollar threshold is for that medical treatment, right?
Oh, okay. Because if there was a certain amount spent, then it would become a felony versus a misdemeanor.
Exactly. Okay. And so we know initially he went to a dentist to get his tooth fixed. So let's say in most dentists, the first step in getting your tooth fixed is they may do something a little cosmetic, maybe glue that sucker back together and take some what are those, the clay thingies to figure out what to do. And then later they may come back and say, all right, now that we've done this, we're going to charge you for a veneer. And maybe that veneer is going to be $10,000. That's going to reach the threshold. It could have potentially been something like that. And I do primarily civil law, but I have to say, yeah, I've done quite a bit of misdemeanor. I've done criminal. I've done assault, all of that. So yes, I have experience in that area too. It's not my favorite. Now, if I take those on, I'm co-counseling with someone else, and it's someone who is like specifically asked me. Oh, I got some great story times for my criminal cases, I can tell you. But that my guess would be that, because it seemed fairly clear from James from the beginning, or at least towards the beginning, that he knew he wanted to press charges. That's another thing that
he said he was gonna press charges from the beginning. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's similar when I worked in the juvenile detention center, and I didn't know this until I worked in the detention center. And so once, when they would charge the kids with felony theft, depending on what they stole. So like if they stole an iPhone, because it crossed the threshold, the value of the phone was more than whatever I forgot what the dollar amount. I think the dollar amount might have been $500 or something. But because the value of an iPhone or an iPad is more than whatever that threshold is, then now your theft went from a misdemeanor to a felony. And that's how they get a lot of our kids when it's time. I mean, don't get me wrong, nobody should be stealing, but literally to get a felony because you stole an iPhone. But that's how, okay. So that's what that sounds like. Okay.
Yep, it sure is. And then hold on, let me see. Let me get this display, because I want to try and share with you. Yeah, I don't know why my little stupid whatchamacallit. Here we go.
You got it.
Make this, I think it's my mouse. Okay, I got my mouse working. All right, so go ahead.
Okay, hold on. Ray Bishop. Ray Bishop. Yeah, I want to say two things and then I'm gonna move on. Nitwit, I think Nitwit is onto something. She said, I think Zeus was trying to protect her, and once she came out talking trash about her contract, they left her out to dry. Now that makes sense. Maybe they were trying to resolve things or keep it quiet as possible or keep it under the radar, and that's a valid thought.
I like that, Nitwit. Ooh,
that's a valid one. And then Ray Bishop gave me a definition. He said, I believe he lives in California. Not to dox you, I'm sorry, not to put the business out.
No.
But it says, in California, a deadly weapon is any object or weapon inherently deadly or used in a manner that is capable of causing or likely to cause a great bodily injury or death.
Correct. I think the Zeus thing makes sense, because let's also talk about that. If Zeus was going to take it on, okay, here's why Zeus would take it on. It's because she's on probation. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And if this old girl gets charged, it is an automatic probation violation. Actually, let's go ahead and jump into that now. I'm going to share one of her probation documents. Let's see. Can we get that on the screen? Oh, can you put that on? Are you able to add that to your screen? Yeah. Can you pull it up?
I can. There it is.
Okay.
Oh, let me take this off. Hold on. Let me take this down. All right. There we go.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So here's a little probation document. Now, what you see here, so her charges, y'all, this is significant. First of all, let's start with the fact, and I broke this down on my channel, but it was in this raggedy little town of Craig County, Oklahoma. Craig County literally has a population of approximately 14,000 people, okay? These people, they literally put her on their website as Oklahoma's most wanted. Let's see if I got that cute little, if I got her cute little mug shot. Let me see. There we go. Look at the cute little mug shot. No, she had been crying beforehand, they said.
You know why she was in Oklahoma, right? You know why she was there.
No, tell us.
So her and Blueface got into a fight. She trashed, she did what she does. They got into a fight. She said she was going back to Baltimore. So she stole his car and was driving across country back to Baltimore. And he reported the car stolen. And so she got pulled over in Oklahoma. And when they searched the vehicle, they found the drugs.
Got you. And to be clear, so she was on probation. So she never got charged with stealing the car. So he decided to, I guess, drop those charges since she was coming back home. Plus, that's toxicity at its finest. All right,
exactly.
But y'all, she already had a probation violation, it appears. Right? So here's the original charge. It was a lawful possession of a controlled drug. This one was marijuana. It says here with the condition, and then of a controlled substance. The count 2. That's a crack. She was found with crack. Not cocaine, crack.
Yes.
She was actually found with crack. And so part of the quote deal that they gave her is they wouldn't charge her for the crack. They would charge her for these 2 counts that you see here on the screen, which is one is marijuana with the intent to distribute. That makes it higher, right? And then the second one was possession of a controlled substance. That is the crack cocaine. Now, part of her, this was the charging instrument. Yes. Blah, blah, blah. And then ultimately what she received was 4 years of probation is what she's supposed to have. But she already violated one time. I don't remember exactly what she did, but it looks like she was supposed to appear, called, and she failed to appear. That's what it was. So she got 1 violation. She ultimately paid her fines and did her stuff. But what I'm saying is this here would be considered a second violation or a second issue. And those little bitty towns, think about it, guys. What type of year do we have? An election year. Those kind of prosecutors like to make names for themselves by being tough on crime, right? And what better way to be tough on crime than to hold a celebrity with 5 million followers accountable? You can't just come through this county, with your drugs, you Californian. You can't come through with your drugs, and then you can't come through assaulting people, violating your probation. So I anticipate that it's very likely that a prosecutor could try and use her to make an example of himself, particularly if he's going up against someone in the primary, which is going to be in March, right? Which would be next month. So I anticipate anytime now, there's a chance that she would then get transferred to Oklahoma for a probation violation. And it also could be that California was coordinating with her probation officer to determine how that would work out. What were the ramifications? Did they want, to hold her? Would California hold her until probation got her or whatever? But again, she is now facing up to 4 years in jail because of this. And I don't know. What do y'all think? Drop it comments in below. Do you think she should have to serve a little time? Do you think that would help her calm down, sit down, and get it together? At this point, that poor baby, Polo Jr., both his parents would be locked up at the same gosh darn time, both of whom would be on probation violations.
And the reality is neither one of them, in my opinion, have a stable enough home. That baby will go straight into the system.
Or the crazy greenie. Carlissa would love this. Carlissa would love
I'm sure she would love it. But I mean, to be honest, I don't know. To be honest, all they gotta do is show some of her daggone TikTok videos, and I don't know if anybody would find her fit.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. No, she already said that she's had the police, I guess herself, docs or whatever, had the police called to her home, and I believe CPS has previously investigated. I don't know if it was the time with the baby's private parts hitting the internet or what, but yes, she has already had the cops looking into what she's doing. But this was only a matter of time. And with Blueface, was the violation when he tried to get that girl to fight Jaden Alexis? I think that was his violation.
Yeah, I think his violation. Honestly, I think his violation is all of the above. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think.
Correct. Oh
I
yeah, and
mean,
now he's got.
because now he violated in Vegas, so Vegas
That's right.
wants him after LA's done with him. So he about to be. I mean, he about to be hemmed up for a minute.
Oh, and then, but okay, walking through the Zeus thing. I mean, that was just a genius. Please join my jury. Please join my jury when you get a chance. That was genius. And that makes so much sense to me because if you think of it this way, with Zeus, they know the likelihood of this being a probation violation and therefore, ruining their ability to film with her. So they likely were offering James a very comfortable, or were open to offering him a very comfortable dollar figure, right? In which case that would make sense with him dragging his feet on the criminal, because it would have been under the agreement that we'll give you this money if you agree not to pursue the criminal charges.
Yeah, that sounds like it because let me say something I never understood. And again, I know this isn't illegal. This isn't legal right now. This is just my 2 cents. I never understood Tamar's hesitation in the matter. If that's my best friend, let me tell you something. Me and Simone have met in real life. We've hung out in real life, but I know that I wouldn't be in the category of best friend for her, and same with and vice versa. But let us be out somewhere together and she get assaulted. Why? I never understood. Now Tamar said that this man is her best friend, and I never understood her hesitation to speak publicly. Like they got mad at her other former friend for coming out and speaking, and I never understood. I never understood why they didn't want to speak on it. I just never understood it, especially since there was so many witnesses. It wasn't like nobody was there, and it happened like in the privacy of Tamar's home. Like at this point, we've got at least 3 witnesses that were there.
So that's usually the kind of thing where I think often it's her team. It's whoever her advisor is, her manager. Her manager could say, wait, don't speak now, speak. Maybe hold off on making a comment until the end of your tour, because I think it was wrapping up, or I think she was about to announce a second leg or something like that.
But
so they may have wanted her to time it a certain way.
But you know what? Another attorney told me. I just thought of it while you were talking. Another attorney said that the hesitation may have been because Tamar could potentially be liable for creating the work environment, and it could come into play with her, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes, about insurance as it relates to the workplace, because she invited Krishan there with Krishan's history. She was, you know what I mean? It wasn't like she wasn't trespassing. She was an invited guest.
Agreed.
And another attorney said that might be one of the considerations, maybe her attorney or her, maybe that might have been one of the considerations.
Advise her not to speak on it. Yes, because I haven't seen his civil suit. I'm definitely going to pull it. But how it works with any civil suit, any lawyer that's, worth hiring is going to say, all right, well, we're both going to sue Krishan, but we have to sue the establishment for negligent security. So that's the claim. It's failure to have the appropriate security in place to prevent this. And the negligent security. So anytime you have a concert or an event, each individual promoter or person that throws the event also has to get insurance for that event. So they're probably going to sue whoever the promoter is, because the promoter is and the venue, because they are both generally responsible for providing adequate security. So yes, you're right. That ultimately would come and could come back on Tamar for those reasons. Good point.
We are definitely going to continue to follow this story, because listen, I've been waiting on this since November, because this case has perplexed me on so many different levels. But we want to get into now listen, for people who are new here, they don't know that Girl, Is That Legal? Me and her we've had this conversation, but now there's some updates to the conversation. Matter of fact, I will pin the link to our first video where we talked about this the first time, as Nene's lawsuit, because now we're going to sort of recap Nene's lawsuit against Bravo, but we also have Bravo's response. And we're going to kind of look at it in the context of where we are now, with Nene and Bravo, especially among all the conversation that's been going on this week with Kandi leaving. Now, Portia today, they said Portia ain't signed no contract. believe she is coming back. I just believe I believe that they haven't finished negotiations. Now that's what I read today, that there's been no contract signed. But remember, we heard that last year that Portia was coming back, and then at the last minute they said she's not. And what I heard was that they couldn't agree on money.
I believe it every time.
Now that they don't have Candy's salary, they should be able to pay Portia whatever.
They got a little room in there. Now, what was Candy's salary?
I don't know her exact salary, but I know she was one of the highest paid housewives out of the whole franchise, not just Atlanta, but the whole Housewives franchise. But I mean, she was one of the longest running housewives. Right. She's been there for 14. Yeah, she's been there for 14 out of the 16 seasons. So.
Oh yeah, that salary cap. They really got some room up in that salary cap.
I think she was in the. I think. Don't quote me on this. And if somebody in the chat knows, drop it in the chat. But I think they said she was in the top 3 of current housewives in the franchise.
Wow.
I think they said the top 3. That's why I'm surprised, because Candy always said, she said, "Listen, for what they pay me to sit around and eat and travel, I ain't going nowhere." But I think what she said. They gave her too much time to think about it, honey. Anyway, let's get the Nene, child. Let's get the Nene. They were saying $2 million.
Come on.
They were saying Candy made $2 million a season. Okay, that's decent.
Oh, that's real nice. Okay.
Yeah, that's decent.
Go ahead, then. With your bad self.
Well, Carlos knows, child. He know more about Bravo shows than his own shows. But don't let me shut up.
Yes. So what we'll do? Okay, so we'll start with the petition. I like for non-lawyers to be able to ask whatever questions that come up. So if you can help me monitor the questions in the chat, so people, there we go, can feel like they've got both. We are going to, let's start with the petition, and we're going to go over it. I don't know, have you guys on any channels? I haven't seen any channels that have gone over the petition, but if you have,
I mean, we did. We did.
The Nene petition?
No, I don't know. We went over I don't know. I know we talked about it before.
Yeah, we talked about it. All right. If you could put the petition on the screen. And
then which go right here. Start here.
The one, it says V2 Nene. Not that one. The other one.
Not that one. The other one. Okay.
I can pull that one out. There we go. I can move it. Gotcha. There we go. All right. So with this petition, what's interesting is we all know that her overall claim is racism by NBC. And we're breaking this down because, recently Kenya was on a podcast and they had asked her, who did she think should come back, Nene or Portia or both? And she said, oh, no, nail in the coffin. I don't think it would ever be Nene again. I'm in agreement with her, and here's why. And you've talked about this on your channel a number of times. When you guys see the allegations that she's had in here, it actually brings 2 questions. It's number one is, why would you even want to work for anybody that racist, right? Why would you even want to come back? But we know, because it's not just about the show. You never do those kind of reality shows just for the show. It's about the additional opportunities that can arise, right?
Right.
But it's not just, it's why would you even want to go back to that kind of a racist environment, for number one? And number two, part of the issue here is that whenever you sue a company like this, it creates a culture within the company, and it's either going to encourage other people to do the same, which is the last thing a company wants, to have a bunch of these lawsuits. Because if she wins, they know Ebony K. Williams would probably be next, right? Her being an attorney, she experienced something very, very similar.
Right.
As well as there are other people that were outlined throughout this. Now, first of all, I want to be very clear. Many people don't realize that corporations have employment insurance. So when she sued them for this, what happens is their employment insurance kicked in for NBC Universal, which means they can paper her and have this long and drawn out forever, because they have no limit. They have no limit on how much they're able effectively to spend for litigation. By no limit, I mean it's capped generally at whatever your policy. So if there's a $10 million policy, depending on the policy, some policy says that $10 million has to include attorney's fees. Others say you get $10 million plus attorney's fees. Okay. Okay. So that's why it's really hard to go against these people sometimes, is because all they got to do is pay a deductible. Their deductible might be $50,000, could be $10,000. Just like with a car wreck, once you paid your deductible, you get to sit back and pay for them. The other thing I want to make clear is recently, like a year ago, so this was filed in 2022. Last year, they filed and said, congratulations to Nene. Her claim against them has been dismissed.
And that's not what happened. We talked about that.
No. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. That wasn't what happened. What happened was her lawyers reviewed her contract with NBC and saw and understood that there's a provision that mandates she can't just go to court. They have to go to mediation or arbitration. So their dismissal, it looked really cute. It looked really nice for the internet, but it was really effectively saying, we're dismissing this because we filed it in the wrong court. Now, it made her look good in that it was not with prejudice, which would prevent from retrial.
Right.
So, but what happens is generally your mediator, depending on the agreement, whatever your mediator says goes. And mediation resolutions are not public information generally, unless both sides agree. So I say that to say, what we do know is that Nene didn't get what she wanted from this situation. Because if she had, she wouldn't be having to fight to be back on TV and be back on this show. She would have enough money to where her house was not, it just barely missed foreclosure, okay? Her house wouldn't have been in foreclosure if they had actually settled when the media was like, oh, okay, she's dismissing her case. Mm-hmm. What's going on is they're just fighting in private. So let's get into this. All right, so we just gonna I highlighted some provisions. Okay, there we go. So basically, the allegations are that NBC has had a history. NBC, Bravo, and its network have a history of racism and being racially insensitive to Black talent. Now, wait a minute. Baby, if you call me out on this and then you name me personally, because remember, they named NBC, Andy Cohen, Sherry Levin, Steve White, a number of people. If you name me personally, I now got to buck up and defend myself and my image, at all costs. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So first she outlines there's basically a lack of diversity and that they are doing terrible when it comes to diversity in their leadership. I don't doubt that. She gave the example of, she says that they were actually ranked. Now, y'all, you see this is 74 pages. We're not reading all 74. We're going to get to the meat. What she is saying is that NBC Universal ranked third to last of all of the 8 largest networks. And then she says here, Bravo, which televises racially segregated workplaces in which racially insensitive and inappropriate conduct is condoned and allowed to fester, often creating discriminatory and hostile work environments for diverse talent who are working in their workplaces. All right. Someone said all of them are bad at DEI. Yes. So basically she's saying they all suck. Next, she names each of these people individually and then just speaks to them. So with Andy, she basically just outlined how he came to Bravo, which was in 2004, and his roles. She then goes into talking about the franchise. Now, this is interesting. She calls the Real Housewives racially segregated. I think nobody can deny that. And she breaks down how the ones with Black cast, Atlanta and Potomac, seem to be mistreated as well. She goes on and she talks about later on how they really had to fight to be able to have a real vacation trip like the other seasons, despite having high ratings. She says here on page 4, the segregated nature of the franchise is reminiscent of the early days of Separate but Equal. And I believe her attorney is a Caucasian man, by the way. That is, the shows are racially segregated. They're purported to be equal, but in fact, they're not. For example, I didn't remember, but the first franchise was Real Housewives of Orange County. They talk about how the fact that it was the first 15 seasons didn't have not one person of color. Then they added the girl Noella. Shout out to my cousin Noella. Noella must be a Black girl name because I only know 3 Noellas. My cousin, my aunt, and this girl here. Noella, and I think Noella had 1 season, and that was only after 15. Then they talk about New York. We all know about Ebony Williams' issues and how Ebony said, it's so obvious to me. I think the rest of the country that you can't have a show about New York that doesn't include Black women. Like, duh.
Beverly Hills, New Jersey.
Yep, they outlined Beverly Hills about how, it wasn't until they added, I think it was a woman of color first, and then they added Giselle. Yes.
Yeah, the first lady, the one that I think she was a friend of. I don't think she was a full-time, but she was on there because one of the cast members made some racially insensitive comments about her hair getting wet and does she know how to swim and So the question, there's a question that says, can they countersue? So can Andy, if this were to be resolved that there was no fault on the side of NBC Universal, could Andy countersue since she called them by name?
No. So a lot of people wonder, like, okay, could he accuse her, for example, of defamation? No. So there is a particular immunity that applies to lawsuits and includes things like defamation, which is that you cannot count if the basis of your countersuit. So let's say he were to sue for defamation. If the basis is something that someone put in a lawsuit petition, you cannot recover for that. The reason being is rich institutions would use that all the time to beat down and recover from everyday people who are filing suit. But what they can't, so you can't like claim defamation for something that someone has said you did to them in a lawsuit, is the point. But what they could do is if they win, they could ask the court for lawyers' fees. And that would be about the same because usually the only damages they face are like lawyers' fees.
Got you. Okay.
There we go. So we got the racial segregation part. They talk about Vanderpump Rules. We talk about all that. What I did find was interesting is we're going to get to it in a few more pages. When she starts talking about the basis of Nene's claim is she feels like she was complaining about the lack of diversity online and she would do it on social media or tweeting. And then that's what was pissing them off. But here we go. They talk about Miss Stowers. They talked about Vanderpump. How basically, I don't know if y'all knew this, Miss Lisa Vanderpump finally added a Black girl in 2015, sat the girl down. And the girl states, they told me straight up, we don't have a lot of color on the show. And you would make a good asset to that.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow.
She said, quote, her casting was less about legitimately and genuinely diversifying the show and more about Lisa Vanderpump's public image as an equal opportunity employer.
Wow. Oh, Lisa.
This is not even somebody in the lawsuit. This is just another person, a person that was on her show. Faith Stowers was her name. Yep. She said, Faith went on to say, I definitely felt like I was being treated differently from everybody else. Well, that's probably the case if you were there to make somebody look less racist. Y'all, if you remember nothing else that I say, mark my words. Whenever you see like an employment law lawsuit, like in the news or whatever, watch. I went to Cornell. People know me. I went to Cornell. And one of the things you do after you go to a top school is you try to go work at a big firm. Generally, on average, Black people, we don't last more than 3 years. They start as high salary. They start you at $180,000. And each year you go up by 10 to 15,000, right? So you're 24 years old, making $180K, living the life. But what happens is they generally, by the third year, tell you you're not a good fit, this or that, to kind of push you out. But the one area where Black people throughout their careers are, I won't say overrepresented, but are largely represented in firms every time, employment law. They love to hire a Black, I'm going to say the A word, a Black lawyer in employment law whenever they're doing racist stuff. Because then they can say to a jury, look, we're not racist. We
right. Look at this.
And if this Black man says we're not racist, And he's a top graduate. He's an Ivy League. He's a this. We can't possibly be racist, guys.
Can't possibly be racist. No. Don't pay attention don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
But mind you, that same person, if they were in any other practice area, that firm would have been kicked him to the curb. But that's what their client, the corporations, their clients are actually the insurance companies that underwrite these policies, but that's what their clients want. Their clients are like, can you give us some Black lawyers? Get us a firm that got some Black lawyers. All right, so then they go into talking about Southern Charm, how Southern Charm, it took them years, and they finally, in 2020, they finally got a Black person on their Charleston one, despite Charleston being like the birthplace of slavery. I'll also say with Southern Charm, they had a Southern Charm New Orleans. My friend Justin Reese was on that, and the girl Tamra, who later hosted Ready to Love, Make a Move, she was on that one as well.
I watched it and I reviewed it on my channel, and they did them dirty. They did them real dirty.
Yes. So going further in, it talks about.
Did Justin never marry that girl? I know that's all off topic. Did Justin never marry that woman? Okay, go ahead. Keep talking.
Yes, they have a beautiful little baby.
Yeah, I know they had a baby.
Yeah. Together. Mm-hmm. So then we're gonna go into some of these little raggedy examples too. And like I said, let me know if people have any.
I'm keeping up with the chat.
Okay, good. So then it talks about Bravo and True Foster, which is probably the production company. Bravo, NBC, and True foster a corporate and workplace culture where racially insensitive and inappropriate behavior is tolerated. All right, so they go down and they talk about the fact that talent, like anybody else in a workplace, have the right under the law to a workplace free from discrimination. Now, let me say this. I got my homeboy, Ryan. He just sent me a message, who is a top employment lawyer in Texas, and we work together on employment law cases. And the bottom line is this: even though she's like a talent and she's, as far as like an actress, she still gets protections. If she's a 1099 contractor, right? So she is still protected from discrimination. So I don't want people to think like it's only for like actual employees. No, you can't discriminate anybody that you have in the workplace. And it goes on to say here, they were allowed to do inappropriate things, the cast, and it went unremedied. So here we go. For example, Luann can do a Halloween party dressed as Diana Ross and a skin tone 7 shades darker and a wig that was 2 foot tall, claimed to be dressed as Diana Ross. And everybody was like, this idiot is really in blackface. She stood by it. And the wig did not resemble Diana. That wig was nappy and ugly, from my understanding. And she was neither NBC or Bravo publicly punished him or disavowed it. Another example they talk about is Luann referred to Native Americans as Indians. Now, wait a minute, we do that too now. But she mockingly smacked her leg. She said, did one of those, jumping up and down like Native Americans. Now, I will say this. One of the things that I thought about as I was reading through this, though, is the fact that, like, as we look at these racial examples, we can be kind of like that too when we're amongst ours. Like, not this show, but remember on Basketball Wives, there was one episode where I think it was Evelyn Lozada referred to the Asian girl as Ling Ling when they were getting their nails done or something like that. And, but she was held to the table for that.
Well, remember Kenya, Kenya did a Halloween costume, and Kenya wore a Native American Halloween costume.
And they got her too.
Yeah.
They got her too.
Yeah, they did. Oh, they got her. Oh, yeah, they got her.
But here's part of the challenge. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. But part of a reality show is they put people on TV doing controversial things because they want people to be splintered. They want people to like them. They want people to hate them. And they want people to be talking about it, right? Talking about it on social media. So then you go watch an episode. So as I'm thinking about these examples, I'm like, how much of this was intentional because they want to talk about the racism or this and that? But if you're going to do that, you have to do it in a responsible way. You know, you can't just let people make fun of Native Americans and, you know, not have it addressed in your episode would be my understanding of the argument here. So, there was also the episode of, it said RHOD. And I was like, what is that? That was Dallas. Y'all, I'm from Dallas.
Listen, Dallas was just, let me tell you something. I used to watch Dallas. Baby, Dallas was just full of racism. Just that's part of the reason why they put it on pause, because baby.
And that's real Dallas. It's really splintered. I don't know many people in Dallas who have, you know, a professional set of friends that are Black and white that mix together, that socialize. Even if you watch Love is Blind, when they were in Dallas, a lot of those people, they had a group of friends that was homogenous, one way or the other. Now, you might see Hispanics and Blacks, because I went to a Black and Hispanic Catholic school primarily. We also had, it was 1/3 Black, white, and Hispanic, but Dallas is real splendor. But they talked about this lady, Dr. Moon, who's Asian, was introducing food from her culture when Westcott, I guess Cameron Westcott, she refused to eat the chicken feet and said she'd rather eat ass, and placed the chicken feet on the floor and threw it on the floor. Now, I have to say, I don't want to eat chicken feet either, but I'm not going to behave in that way. And then she doubled down on it.
Well, Cameron, listen, like I said, that show, listen, they had better examples than that one. And Cameron Westcott, she was, you know, one of them blue blood families that could probably trace their roots back to the Alamo. And it came out later on that her and her family were staunch Trump supporters. And after the reunion, they made her husband and her brother-in-law made some really nasty racial comments specifically at Tiffany Moon. There was also an incident with Leanne. One of the girls was from Mexico, and her and Leanne got into it. And she was, you know, Leanne was like, so is she going to cut me with her Mexican knife? And she's just Mexican. I'm supposed to be scared of her because she's a big, bad Mexican. And then there was another one on there that did the same thing with the Asian, making fun of the Asian. She was like, oh, we just got back from getting our nails done. And she like literally pulled her eyes up.
Yeah,
and did.
Sure did.
Yeah. It was listen, like I said, Dallas, and not one black person was on Dallas either. Not a one.
Now, fast forwarding, so they're going through these examples. Now, I fast forward here, they're talking about the example of Ebony K. Williams, and had her concerns. Sure. So Ebony K. Williams launched her concerns because she said that Ramona basically said something racist to her. And so did one of the staff members, the crew members. Interestingly, it was like they dismissed Ebony's concerns, but once the staff member made a concern, they took it more seriously, it seems, and made an investigation. Specifically on Section 45, it says, Ebony Williams lodged an internal complaint. First of all, shout out to Ebony Williams. That's how you do it. You say, I want you guys to investigate this internally, because that puts the onus on them to put resources and things behind it, right? She lodged an internal complaint alleging racially offensive behavior by Ramona Singer in the summer of 21. Relatedly, in December, long before Williams even had that complaint, a crew member had lodged a complaint of racially offensive comments also by Singer. It was unclear whether the crew member's complaint was investigated in real time or whether it wasn't until Ebony also made her complaint that they said, all right, we're going to look into this, right? Oddly enough, even though housewife Heather Thompson said she also heard Ramona say this, she was there, and that Ramona did in fact say it, the internal investigation found that the complaint made by the staff member was accurate, but that Ebony's complaint was unfounded, which makes, in this petition, they're basically claiming in 46, a proper investigation would have been able to corroborate the allegations made by Williams were also true. In other words, they're outlining these different complaints. And I'll say this, I bet you anything, the crew member, because this would have been what's called the Screen Actors Guild, or the union. This was a union production. You can't play with union workers. So they likely had to go through all the protocols to make sure this crew member felt heard. And that's likely what got it, a fair shot. But long story long story short, they went through all of this. And then in the end, there was no punishment for Ramona. In fact, I think she was allowed to come back under to the girls' trip, one of those. But the punishment was, okay, we're not going to have a reunion. How the hell is that a punishment? Because that punishes Ebony. Because that's another check she's not getting. Unless you say you're going to pay her and pay, the other person as well. I mean, this sounds like straight foolishness. Now, here we go. They continue to reward Singer. Yep, it says here, letting her on girls' trip. Now, they contrast that to the actions that the Real Housewives took against Nguyen. I don't remember her last name. Basically, an Asian woman named Nguyen on the Real Housewives. She didn't even make these comments on the show. It was during the George Floyd everything with Black Lives Matter. She made some comments online, and long story short, they pulled her from the show. She made comments about White Lives Matter and that the Black protesters were thugs.
Jenny
blah, blah, blah.
Wynn. Jenny Wynn.
Yes, Jenny. And so the argument here is, it's very interesting that the time that they chose to hold someone publicly accountable is a person of color. Is it that, okay, now they're trying to improve their response? Or is it a different measuring stick is used for different ones? Now, let's move on. Let's see. Yep, and they terminated her. All right. Let's go on to the complaints that Nene had. Now here they actually talk about Gabrielle Union and her launching an investigation. Basically, she filed a complaint with the state of California's Gabrielle Union filed a complaint with the state of California's Fair Employment Office, arguing racial discrimination and a toxic work environment on the show America's Got Talent. And she also talked about how the NBC chairman, Paul Telegli, threatened to silence her during the investigation. Here we go. Specifically, he told the head of NBC, he told her she should, quote, be careful of who she calls a racist. Then he confirmed the Hollywood Reporter did an investigation that basically confirmed that what Gabrielle Union was complaining of was corroborated by interviews with many others who had worked behind the scenes, but who were only commenting under anonymity. And that it, quote, speaks to the culture of NBC and shows clearly that white male senior executives have a completely different set of rules that apply to them. Then she goes into baby Mariah Huq. If you go to my page, I'm going to have where you guys can download this in case you want to see it as well. But they go into how Mariah Huq was treated on Married to Medicine, blah, blah, blah. Then it goes into Nene and her background, but it also, she talks about, let's keep going. We know her complaints that she had against Miss Kim and Kim's behavior. Now, the both of them, they kind of traded insults because she referred to her in all types of ways as well. However, let's go back to.
But can I ask you this question?
Go for
it. As somebody. So my argument with that was always, again, I'm not defending Kim at all, because I do think Kim has made some very problematic comments. But then there have also been times where Nene has been quoted as saying they should bring Kim back. Kim deserves to come back.
Right.
And this was so it's almost like if I'm the attorney defending Bravo, I'm going to throw her words in her face. I'm going to be like, okay, well, Kim did all these horrible things to you, but you said we should bring her back after she was no longer working there. You said she should come back. So, again, I'm not saying that Kim didn't do what Nene said she did, but for her argument that it created such a hostile work environment, well, why would you say she needs to come back and get her job?
Right. So that's a difficult argument for Nene's team. But in the end, I don't think what Nene wanted was millions and millions of dollars. I really think what she wants is to not be blackballed, to be able to get her deals back. Because she talks about the fact that she had a deal on the table. We're going to get into it. Production deal. She had these different opportunities that were on the table that all of a sudden they snatched back. And so, when you're dealing with this kind of scenario, which is what part of this is what makes me think they're probably still in mediation. It may not be over with yet. In that a potential solution could be something where it says, hey, we're going to give her a development deal. We're going to give her a second look. But what would that look like is going to be the challenge. So I say that to say, I believe that the only way Nene would be able to come back on Bravo or NBC is that if it were part of their settlement negotiations, if they have completely settled and resolved this case, and if she waived any right to sue them for what she believes to be any form of racial discrimination in the future. And now that's the part that I don't know that legally you could waive your right to a constitutional protection, right? Because the Constitution says people can't treat you racistly.
Yeah, so that's definitely a good question. I don't know if you can do that.
Yes. She filmed well with Kim. Yeah, it was definitely about money. All right, so then here it talks about Miss Leaks engaged in legally protected activities. So I want you guys to be clear on the examples of what Nene was saying specifically that she did that resulted in the culmination of this and of her saying, you know what, I got to file a lawsuit because these people out here tripping. Specifically, she states that basically what got her in trouble was calling out the racism on social media. And that if she would have continued to do it in a private environment, it wouldn't have been an issue. But that they would consistently ask her to remove posts and to, quote, take it offline. As in, if you got an issue with somebody doing something racist, particularly it started with, I want to say like Andy Cohen or someone in that area, that if you need to talk to that person one-on-one, but don't be going online and doing that, because what happens is then a lot of people, of course, support and condone that with her, but it does create for, it creates for a difficult work environment. Because think of it this way, all right? Obviously, it's difficult for us as Black employees having to deal with it, having to experience it in the first place. But it's also difficult, particularly in film, when you're dealing with Caucasians who at work feel like they have to tiptoe around the Black folks, the brown folks, the whatever. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that is their argument. So, all right. So here, let's go back one. She talks about, she was complaining about Kim's conduct and that, among other things, she posted to her social media outlets, quote, that Kim and her daughter, oops, the whole family are racist. She said, what her daughter did at my home was pure, disgusting, racist, and learned behavior. I believe this was the Roach Gate. And the quote, it says up here, the Roach one. It says, Nene Leakes engages in legally protected activity by calling out Kim's behavior and her racially offensive behavior. But that NBC, Bravo, and the network, and True, responded by chastising Nene for her calling it out, and that it's, quote, not good for business, and instructed her to, quote, take it offline. As in, even like, go beat her up, go to her house, go talk to her there, but don't tweet about it. And that's what Nene is claiming she is protected from doing. Here's the thing, though. Yes, but no. And I want you to be very, very clear of that. So there's many more pages, and they just consistently bring out more examples of where she calls out things. There we go. That racial things that have happened. Here's another example. Hold on. Let me go to paragraph 80. It says, before Nene called out Zolciak and her daughter, True's president, Stephen Weinstock, initially was supportive of Nene and apologetic for Kim's ignorant words and actions. Weinstock texted Nene on October stating, Nene, I'm really sorry that Kim has ignorantly gone down the path of posting stupid shit. I'm dealing with her. XOXO. That's initially it was clear who was in the wrong was Kim, okay? But then it says, but once Bravo and True learned that Nene had spoken up and objected to it, to the continual mistreatment, everything changed. Weinstock, who initially supported her, reversed his position, blah, blah, blah. And ultimately, she feels that the message is clear about racism And hold on, there was one. Let me just make sure. And it says they did not want any pushback from those who felt racially appropriate behavior was offensive. The race-based attacks were fine, but in other words, they object to them because they were, quote, not good for business, and the network feels they weren't good. But hold on one second. This is what I want to make sure I don't skip for y'all real quick. And then we can take any questions. Come on. This is, oh, there you go. I'm trying to get my little mouse is not participating properly. Here we go. All right. It is, real quickly, it's paragraph, I do not want to forget this. All right, 108. Gotcha. All right. So going on, Retaliation continued, circulation of false, inflammatory, da-da-da-da. I'm trying to get to the example of, oh, okay. So then basically, Kim was claiming that she wanted to file suit against Nene for alleging she was racist, and then it became like a back and forth issue between the two. And then Nene felt that in these situations she was being attacked for standing up against Kim. Let me move up. Hold on, let's go. Okay, here we go. All right, then she talked about in season 11 that she felt like, season 11, during that year, there were threats to Ms. Leaks that calling out Kim's behavior was not good for business. We talked about that. Take it offline, all of which she did. Excuse me. And in turn, they felt she was given insufficient contractual agree for the number of episodes. In fact, they stated that they reduced her in the final season where she walked away to only 6 episodes. Yeah. That she could do other work, blah, blah, blah. And that in response to post, here we go. One of the major examples that ticked off Bravo is this. It says, as one example, on February 29, the Oscars were held in California, whatever, that NBC-owned E! Entertainment did the red carpet. That day, Nene Leakes posted a comment on the Instagram page of Brad Jaworski, and Brad is a white male who hosted Eli from the red carpet. He did it that day. And Miss Leakes and Mr. Gorski were on friendly terms. She commented on his page, pointing out the glaring fact that the network did not have any person of color working on the prominent pre-show red carpet. In response to her posting on the page, executives from the network contacted Ms. Leakes' team and demanded that she remove the comment she posted on his page immediately. She then goes on to complain that they did bad faith negotiations. She was not offered a contract for season 12 until after the season already started filming a number of episodes, and that she was given a lower number of guaranteed episodes. In addition, she tried to have a radio show and says that Andy Cohen, admitted that he told Sirius that Nene Leakes would demand a lot of money for any role on the radio show, and which she saw as an obvious way of trying to prevent her from getting work. Now, but that actually is true. So that's tricky. Those kind of things are true. Because she would demand a whole bunch of. Go ahead.
I was going to say that was so when she did her interview with Carlos King, I said the same thing. I said, was it him trying to sabotage her, or was he telling the truth? Like, to me, and you can tell me this. I know as an employer, I can call your references. I can call your last employer, and I know that they're only supposed to be able to confirm, yes, she worked here, whatever. But if they ask me about salary and I say, well, she's a tough negotiator, she's going to push for the limit. I don't know the law as it is written, but if that's what he said, and if that's been his experience with Nene, was that retaliation, or was that, I think that's a thin line. I don't know.
Right. And let me summarize the legal issue this way. So retaliation is when you are being punished for protected behavior, basically whistleblowing, complaining about something
Okay.
unlawful that's being done to you or another employee,
Okay.
in an attempt to get that behavior remedied. But here's the challenge here. If she had done this within NBC Universal emails, on their Slack, on their Gmail account, anything in between their own employees, I don't think she'd have any issue here. The issue was
Okay.
she took it outside of the company. And I do not know if that's protected. I'm not going to speak on that because I'm not that type of employment lawyer. But think of it from this perspective. Remember recently there was the woman, there was the Walmart employee who saw a woman who appeared to be neglecting her child. So she
Yeah, we
recorded
talked
it in the
about
Walmart. Yes,
that.
she recorded it. She ultimately was fired for posting it. It was the posting that was the problem. It was not the recording, and it was not reporting it, because those things you are legally permitted, if not required to do, if you're a mandatory reporter kind of person. But the issue is, so I don't know, with retaliation, I believe she may not be protected by taking the complaint to social media, so to a non-company forum, because the truth of the matter is, if your goal is to fix the problem at your company, but you go tell your pastor, and you tell the lady at the Popeyes chicken, and you tell the crossing guard that takes your kids to school, obviously those people can't do anything to fix your problem, right? So retaliation is about you telling someone who can fix this lawful issue. So her telling the world almost to get certain people canceled, or not to, but potentially could get so people canceled. I don't know that that's protected, but I could also see an argument being raised that we didn't have an issue with her internal complaints. Because remember, we can contrast this to what Ebony K. Williams did. Ebony K. went and made an internal complaint that launched an internal investigation. Now, arguably, it appears she chose not to come back because she was like, these people aren't some foolishness, as opposed to them not giving her the opportunity to come back. But I say that to say, I just want you to walk away with the understanding that it appears here that what she is referring to as retaliation, one of her legal issue would likely be that she's not bringing it to the change agents in the corporation that can fix it. So I don't know that that's protected behavior.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. Yep. So in the end, that's where her complaint lies. And also, you call your boss a racist. We got to remember, she called Andy racist on the internet.
And she also said he was a drug addict.
Yep, that part too. That drug addict part is not protected. Even if, in fact, if anything, even if he was a drug addict, if he were to choose to go get help or whatever, he'd actually be protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And you couldn't take his job. He'd get to go to rehab. He'd get to come back. He'd get to la, la, la. So I say that to say the challenge is going to be, she is now asking to go back and work for the same people that she's publicly humiliated. And there's no guarantee for them that she won't take to this again. Now, I believe in a settlement agreement, her lawyer would happily stipulate she will never use social media to degrade the company. And actually, in most companies' separation agreements and what have you, if not employment agreement, there's a non-disparagement provision. However, non-disparagement still lets you tell the truth, because the law actually says the truth is never disparaging. So if the truth is your breath stinks and you say my boss's breath stinks, that's not considered disparagement, as a legal example. But in the end, reading this, and like I said, we only on page 54. They told her, the money they gave her, they told her they wanted her to sit out. Really what it sounded like too is what they wanted her to do is chill the heck out and get off social media. To the point where I'm shocked that her management team didn't say, okay, come on now, cut it out. because this ain't gonna be it. But I don't know, her management may have left her, have dropped her.
I think okay. They did, but don't quote me on that. I think Nene did lose her management, but don't quote me on that. But I almost think I remember us talking about that. But let me say this to you guys too. Yes. Two things I want to say. The first one I want to say is, and I know it always seems like I'm just coming at Nene, but I'm really just sort of playing devil's advocate. Because I don't disagree with Nene on some things. I just disagree with how Nene handled it. But one thing I will say is this: we can look at examples of other housewives who have had the same experiences. I know that there are other who didn't finalize their contract until after they started filming. I know other housewives that got reduced and their episodes got cut during the season because they can edit you out of an episode and they can do as they will. I know there are other housewives who have been told chill out with social media. They do it to Dr. Heavenly all the time. She literally says, they called me, I gotta shut up. Production just called me. Like literally she'll be in the middle of her live and she'll say, okay, production told me shut up. They told me I'm doing too much. So the reality is you're not the only person that these things have happened to. That again, I'm not saying that makes it okay, but what I'm saying is you're not an anomaly when it comes to stay off of social media. Don't talk about your employer. Chill out. And the other thing that I've run into, I think people, and when I say people, y'all know I ain't talking about y'all, but when I say people, I think people forget because we watch them on TV and we are entertained. I think people forget that these people are employees of a corporation. And just like you can't go
they're not even. They're 1099s. They're independent contractors.
Right. They're independent contractors. So I think people forget that when they start talking about what people can and can't do. And I always try to bring it back around to think about your job, what you can and cannot do on your job, or understand that there will be repercussions and consequences. And I think that's the part that, because we watch them as people we watch on TV and we like them and we feel like we're a part of their life and stuff. I think we forget. I think we forget that. But that's just my opinion. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and I'll say, someone had posted, Nene's moved on. It's just us that keep talking about it. I do believe that Nene wants to move on. She doesn't want this to be her story. But I also know that she wants justice. And it seems that Nene would be content if this blackballing, if that weight, if that heavy cloud could be lifted off of her to let her be able to do whatever her talent, could allow her to be hired to do. And so that very likely is something that she could receive, they could agree to in mediation. And then they'd have to figure out, what does that look like? Including, they can't say negative things to her, to third parties. But also someone had said, well, doesn't she have a job with NBC Universal on the new show coming out called Hunting Housewives? So the answer is she is on that show. And shout out to Make It Make Sense, who he covered that and he gave his analysis and his thoughts on how maybe they're resuming and maybe they're friendly there. That's on Lifetime. And while NBC Universal does own a component of Lifetime, they have different contracts, they have different everything. More importantly, though, guys, that is a Screen Actors Guild union televised program. That is a scripted. Scripted and unscripted are distinctly different things, okay? And, scripted, I'm pretty sure Nene is in the Screen Actors Guild in the union. If I'm in the union, she's definitely in the union because she's been on Glee and a variety. And as a union employee, you cannot block a union employee from any kind of roles if it's a union job. And specifically, in that instance, with union roles, what you have to show is that you have first auditioned union members and tried to cast them. And only after you do that are you even allowed to audition or entertain non-union employees or non-union members. So I say that to say that analysis is distinctly different. It very well could mean that they are working on getting on more friendly terms, But Lifetime is distinct from Bravo and the True production company and the other entities. And Scripted has completely different laws and legal ramifications than the others. But I think that I would be more like, I feel like unless the numbers were just astronomically in Nene's favor, I don't know that she'd want to revisit Housewives, but I do feel that she'd, at this point, probably like to revisit the spinoff. So they talk about it here. There's a spinoff that they offered her for her Lenithian Lounge, but the problem was she declined it because they were only going to pay her $150,000 for the pilot. But mind you, that was just the development deal. Now she felt like that was
wait a minute. Hold on. I'm sorry. No, I want you to say that for the people in the back. I want you to say that for the people in the back. Nene was offered a spinoff to do a show for her lounge, but she declined it.
Yes, let me show you the exact page. Okay, I assumed y'all had already knew that, but because y'all be on it. Let me find the exact page because we need to put that part.
Because people will compare. Oh, well, they did this for Candy, and they did this, and they did that. But that's why I wanted to be clear. So she was given an opportunity for a spinoff, and she declined. And again, I'm not saying you got to take whatever somebody throws at you, but I don't think a lot of people knew that because I didn't know that. That's new information to me.
All right, let's go to that. It was so much going on here. It's paragraph 121. Here we go. Yes. It says, approximately a week later, okay, let me set it up for what happened just before that. June 2020, she received a call from Sherry Levine, said, I want you to sit out for season 13. You can come back on 14. She was shocked. According to Andy Cohen, Real Housewives is the house that Nene built. So she couldn't believe it. And then, here we go. She didn't feel like it made any sense. It says here, at the time, Levin justified the decision because Leaks had walked off the reunion. Now, we all know everybody walks off the reunion set. So what now?
No, they don't. No. There's only been, what happened was people will walk off, but they come back. They're dramatic. Okay. They'll storm up. Nene wouldn't come back. That was the reunion. That was the reunion that was virtual. And Nene closed her computer, and literally Andy Cohen is literally calling her while they are on. He's literally calling her. She won't answer the phone, and she would not come back. So technically, now, she she walked off, but it was a virtual reunion.
Okay, gotcha. And it says here, this is her petition. Of course, it said. She walked off. The decision was because she walked off. And it says, but this happens with some level of frequency. And the housewife is not typically banished. This excuse smacked of more differential treatment. Other white housewives have walked off the set only to either return the next year or alternatively receive their own spinoff. The call ended without any agreement.
She's playing a word game.
That is a word game. Now that you've explained it. Now,
because they do storm off, but they come back and they finish the reunion. There was only, so in the history, and y'all correct me in the chat if I am wrong, Lisa Vanderpump refused to show up. And she still has her spinoff Vanderpump Rules, but she has never come back to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She refused to come to the reunion. She stopped filming. Mary Cosby refused to come to the reunion.
That nut.
Right. She refused to come to the reunion, and she was off, and she did come back, but she's black, so that sort of throws off that argument. And there was one other person that they told me about. There was one other person that the chat.
And you know what? I feel like they brought Mary back because one, we all know Mary is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
They were afraid of what the season was going to look like without Jen Shaw, and they were like, "Let's see what we can do." Yeah, they were panicking. But what I'm saying, but that throws
she's the only person of color. You're right. You're right.
But that throws the argument off because Mary is black, and Mary was allowed to come back. So,
well, no, that supports her argument.
And Mary did miss the season. That's true. Mary did. She missed the season.
You're right. True. She did miss this. Oh, you're right. Mary missed the season. Okay. So here we go. So then it says a week later, though, after they told her sit out this one, a week later it says Miss Levin continued to tell Miss Leaks hold on. And speaking about Kim walked off. It's my understanding Kim walked off, but then Kim returned. Anybody know on the reunion? Y'all tell us in the chat. Yeah, she came back. All right. Miss Levin continued to tell Miss Leaks that she needed to sit out season 13. But Miss Levin suggested they could offer Nene a development deal for a show based on her Lenithia Lounge. This deal came with a paltry $150,000 offer. Now, here's the thing. It's a development deal. Now, that wording is generic, and we know that, her lawyer's kind of been playing word games. But with the 150 development deal, if that's what they're willing to put towards, let's say, what's called a sizzle reel, or a pilot, that might be a reasonable amount. And we don't know how many people they're paying for that. The reason I say that is this. With those initial, like if it's just for the pilot episode, and it may not even be that, what happens before a pilot is they usually just have what's called a sizzle reel, which is just literally following you around for like a week, getting the drama, getting the tea, having people sit in Zooms or, sit and kind of crafting it. And the entire sizzle is usually around 5 minutes, but certainly under 10, used to pitch the concept. Now, the other people that are in it all work for free. As in, her staff, this would be part of their job. So you don't get paid. Nobody, not even me as talent or whatever, nobody gets paid to do that initial sizzle reel, that footage. And you generally don't get paid to do a pilot. Now, someone like Nene would get paid to do that pilot, but also the development deal, if that was her money, then it's unclear whether that's also to cover the editing, the this and the that. But what I want to be clear of is it's generally the filming component is generally 2 weeks max. So 2 weeks, 150 isn't bad. And even if she has to share that 150 with like the editor, the this, the that, all of that can generally be done for $25K. If it's 2 weeks worth of filming, around $25K or so. So paltry is if that's supposed to be the pilot season and multiple episodes, absolutely, then that would be paltry. But if this is just to get you to the spot where you're able to pitch it and get like a little short spiel to the network, then that actually isn't a ridiculous amount. But yes, she was offered 150 and said, no, thank you. And they, later that, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, okay. I was just agreeing with you. I was like, okay.
Yeah. So overall, the gist of it is she was offered monies since then. It just wasn't what she believed she was worth. And that's okay. And so ultimately, she decided that she had no choice but to, file the lawsuit. But she also references here that instead of her, that basically they gave that show concept of, following you at the restaurant. They gave the old lady gangs to candy. And it was around that same time. I think it was 2015. And it's keeping up excuses for events. Oh, they also said, it says initially, Nene was also told she needed to sit out the season because she walked off the reunion. Later during negotiations, the executive suggested part of why they wanted her to sit out, part of it was because of an ill-conceived comment Nene made to a heckler at a comedy show. Remember that when she said something, she called somebody the F word, and it was anti-gay. And this was just another instance of dredging up a stale excuse because those events she felt happened in 2017, and all of this was going on later on, like 22. But I don't know when they surfaced or when they became. Once something like that though hits the media, if it's new, that's when it becomes an issue. But long story short, she felt like they're making up a bunch of excuses why not to pay her worth. Because, here we go. Among other things, she publicly called out Andy Cohen for his race-based mistreatment of her and called for a boycott of Bravo, recounting some of the years of race-based mistreatment.
She did.
And in response, NBC, Bravo, and True, they doubled down on the retaliation, she says, now, and they reneged their offer of the development deal show. I don't know that you have a choice.
Well, I'm about to say, I think they're justified in retracting the offer. I mean, girl, Okay.
Well, because the issue also, a component of the issue is if we give her this development deal, who's to say she's not going to use the show to further call us racist?
Right.
So it would have probably been a stronger argument for her if at the time that those things happened, then for her to say, I don't want to show with them. They've offered me these things. I'm experiencing these things. Instead, I'm experiencing intentional emotional distress and this, and outline these different things. And she could get compensated for those. But when you then call out those things and then they reward you, because again, her argument here is that people have been saying racist things and then have been getting rewarded. But those were saying things to castmates, not to the company. So I just don't know of many people that call out a company and then get a promotion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or even keep their job. I mean,
or keep their job. Yes. So I say that to say, yeah, I want to see if there's any kind of final questions, but so that they talk about the release, they talk about all of these different things, but in the end, the issue really goes around it. It's not that she complained about the racist things, it's that she did it so publicly.
And I'm okay with that because I've said that that has always been my point of view. Nobody is ever going to sit here and make, I'm not going to sit here and say that NBC, Universal, and Bravo have not done things that definitely fit the definition of, racial. But again, like you said, Ebony followed what the proper protocol is and exhausted those options. Now, did she still speak out publicly? She did, but she spoke out publicly after she filed the formal complaint, and you know what I mean? Like, she did speak on it, but again, she spoke on it. She still spoke on it. Like, I saw her on The View, and she spoke on it on The View, but she wasn't using her Twitter fingers all up and down the internet. Not
right. And somebody made the great point. This was my question too. They wanted to know, was Kandi offered the same $150 for her Old Lady Gang development deal? Somebody should ask Kandi. I want to know. And I don't know that Kandi would ever tell. Hell, at this point, that might be good for if she ever sits down with Carlos King. I know they're not the best of friends, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is a really generous development deal budget. Because again, remember, it's just for. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't even talk over you. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's just for the development of the concept. It's not for, you shooting an entire season. And so to say it's paltry, I really think, and again, remember, all the talent except for you is going to be free because Nene, could split that in ways that she wanted to. I'd also like to ask Mariah, how much development deal did she get? I know it wasn't no 150. Somebody could ask Melody, how much did you know what I'm saying? They all they self-financed it. And I don't even know that they put in 150 for the initial. But yeah.
And I would say this, I don't know if that at this point, if that's even a fair comparison, because Kandi has had so many spinoff projects with Bravo.
That's true.
So for Nene, she had a wedding special, and this would have really only have been her second spinoff. But with Kandi's had at least 4 spinoffs, plus she executive produced the special they did, the Black Lives Matter special they did during the pandemic. Her production company executive produced that with Bravo. So she has a different relationship with Bravo as it relates to development of shows. Kandi has her own production company, and so she goes through when it's different. So I don't know if the money is comparable, but I don't know if that's a fair comparison considering her history with Bravo. And that's my opinion. I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, that's my understood. And Tracy had a good point. She said, we have 2 housewives who didn't show up at the reunion and came back. So the issue isn't is it coming back? The issue is, did they have to sit out at any point? And Mary Crosby did have to sit out 1 season. I can't speak to the other person, but Mary had to go sit at home with her granddaddy husband.
Right. I don't know who the other two are. But they walk off all the time, but they come back. And from my understanding, the people who refused to come back were not asked back immediately. Let me say that. Now, again, I don't know the whole history of all of the franchises, but Mary, her argument gets thrown out once Mary Cosby becomes part of the equation.
Correct.
So,
correct. Yeah. Somebody, Andrew Carr made the comment, said, y'all don't get mad at me, but does Nene come off as ignorant to a lot of things in which she should have become well-versed by this point in the game? And Marnie is agreeing, said, I'm not mad at you. I feel like you're right. And someone else, Julian, stated, Andrew Carr, I said the same thing years ago. Nene didn't know proper protocol for how long she's been in the industry. As an attorney, I'll say this. I think it could be two things. It could be that, but generally what happens with us lawyers is clients' lawyer shop. You have every right to do so. And so you may come to me, and I'm going to say to you, if Nene came to me, I'd say, all right, Nene, what's your ultimate goal? I know what you've been through. What's your ultimate goal? And I have to start there because that's how I determine if we together can be successful. If your ultimate goal is to get back on and still get paid your $1 million an episode or whatever it was that she was getting, then I would say this isn't it. You're not going to be able to sue them like this. That's not how you're going to do that. But if your goal is to get enough money where you don't care what show you're going to be on and perhaps get a settlement and get a variety of things, I'm then going to look at your case and look at the facts and determine based on the law if I think I can get you there. But whenever I give a consultation for employment law, the fact of the matter is this: you have to have a drilled down, in-depth conversation of the likelihood of blackballing, because blackballing is real and it's real hard to prove. And so yes, and it's real hard to prove. So just giving you an example, if this is a person who had an issue and you worked at a regular corporation, right? One of the things that I've done, another example, I've had young lawyers that come to me and they're dealing with all kind of racism things on the job, right, at their firm. I'll say, what is it you really want? And I know if you've been practicing 4 or 5 years, whatever it is, you don't want to get blackballed from being able to go to another big law firm, right? Because they all speak. I say, here's what I think I can get you. It's easier to get a job when you have a job. I can get them to confirm that you still work there for the next year, even though you're interviewing everywhere. I can get them to keep your face on the website, keep your phone active, keep your email active. So you can go to networking events and network and get you a better job. In the meantime, they still got to pay you a salary for a year and you don't ever show up to that fucker again. Okay. I did this myself. I was with an abusive firm when I left. I even made them, not only did they have to confirm my employment while I was trying to decide what I wanted to do, but I went and I bought a house. I actually bought a house for my parents because, again, when they confirm your employment, that means even if lenders called to say, hey, I just need to confirm they work there. I bought the dream house for my father. At the time, it was a lot. We paid off that lot. I think they wanted $30,000 for it. Now, the least expensive house in that gated community is $1.2 million, and he owns that corner lot free and clear. So I say that to say that was a minimum. That the fact that I got them to negotiate to give me all of those things, right, has been of over $300,000 of value. Plus, I had them agree they would not contest her application for unemployment, that they would never, ever say that she was ineligible for rehire, even though this particular person was ineligible. Because we all know if you say someone is ineligible for rehire, it is assumed that they stole or they did something they had no business. Right. So it is invaluable to do that. And I got them to negotiate that if anyone asked for a reference, I pre-typed up a letter and I had her direct boss and that boss's boss sign 2 versions of that letter. And they agreed this is the only thing that we would give anybody if they are asking for a reference. This is what we would give them, or that my client could give it to whomever. Right. And all they would do was confirm dates of employment. And yes, this was my referral. So I say that to say employment law is really tricky, but that when you got a celebrity, sometimes when you have a celeb come into your office, sometimes the approach can be, I want to win this client. Or secondly, I feel like this is a big enough case that if I get an NBC to mediation, I can get a good amount of money on the table. But that money, again, may not be enough if for the rest of your career, one network is telling another network, yeah, but they sued me. and she called me a racist and da-da-da-da-da.
So, and that's okay. So that was actually what I was going to say. I think blackballing is hard unless you have like a phone call, a text message, an email. Because if I am Paramount and I'm watching what's going on, I saw the tweets, I heard the accusations. Is it really a blackball that I say this is somebody I don't want to work with because I'm afraid that the same thing will happen to me? Like, it would be hard to prove that I understand what Nene said, that offers were pulled and things happened and it was very suspicious. And don't get me wrong, do I think Andy Cohen picked up the phone and made some phone calls? Probably. He probably did.
And you know what? He didn't even have to, because in that industry, you have sense of loyalties, right? So someone who is an executive at another network can be like, you know what? Andy is my boy. And if I hire this girl who just publicly called him a racist, he is going to feel, whether I say anything or not, disloyal, that I've been disloyal. So part of it is when you do those things, you force people to pick sides. Yes. You force people to pick sides, even though they adore you. Just like how earlier in this petition, they talked about the fact that she had a good relationship with that guy who was on the red carpet. And then underneath this picture, she commented that there's no diversity. He doesn't have control over that. But it put him in the middle of a dispute with the network over whether or not that is true. So you can be right and you can still not receive justice. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not picking a side on these based on these facts because we don't even have an answer from the other side. But what I am saying is she's just in a difficult position. So when people say she may have been ignorant, they say, was she perhaps ignorant to the law and the legal process? I do believe that, because I believe 90% of my clients, 95% of clients are ignorant to the ramifications. And it is your lawyer's responsibility to make sure you understand the absolute worst case scenario as well as the best, because we're real good at selling you on that best case scenario and often don't clearly articulate the risks that are presented in that worst case scenario.
And I also think, I think that, and this is my opinion, and I don't dislike Nene, and I think Nene she absolutely did some great things, and she absolutely carried Real Housewives of Atlanta on her back, and we give her all the credit for being a part of the creation of that show. I give her all of her kudos. But I also think part of the problem with reality TV stars, and I'll put that in air quotes, is I think they get caught up in the celebrity of it all and forget that you are still a contractor, and this is still a business. So when we talked about Jocelyn, same thing with Nene. I think a lot of this is Nene getting so caught up in her own ish and really thinking that she was irreplaceable, that she was Nene Leakes. I got Andy Cohen on speed dial, and I'm always at the clubhouse, and I get invited to his birthday parties, and I've had all of these opportunities. NBC Universal put me on other shows, and I think she honestly did get caught up. So I don't know if it's so much ignorance as I think she got caught up in her own ego for a minute. And I don't know if she's been humbled. It doesn't sound like it. I mean, some of these interviews that she's done, it doesn't really sound like it. But maybe, like you said, that she sits down with her attorney and clear some things up, But I think that that's part of it. I think, like we said that with Jocelyn. Jocelyn has been getting rewarded for bad behavior for so long that sometimes those lines get blurred. And now, I mean, thank God she didn't have to go to jail. Well, I can say thank God, but she ended up not going to jail. But now you're on probation for the next 2 years. But you make your money fighting. You
Traveling.
Make your money.
Oh, yeah, and fighting. Oh, yeah. Oh, and here's the other thing. With Jocelyn and this little probation she's on, guess what, baby girl? Probation officers, they don't get paid to revoke your probation, but they sure like finding revocations. I'll say that. And so just because if she were to fight somebody on her own reality show or social media or whatever, that could still be a probation violation, because the way violations work is it's not simply you getting charged with something. It's there being evidence that you've done something impermissible under the law. So it's going to be interesting to see her behavior on social media, because if she were to slap anybody, hurt, assault anybody, drag anybody, put her hands on anybody, she's supposed to do her own spinoff on her own network or whatever. If she does any of that on her show while on probation, there is a chance that that probation officer could revoke her. And they don't care that you sign a release with everyone else on the show that says those people aren't going to sue you. Because, baby, that release does not apply to criminal acts. And that release does not obliviate your obligations under probation.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will continue to follow. Yes, we know her arbitration is coming up, and so I think that's going to be interesting to see what happens. As somebody who used to do arbitrations when I worked for the union, arbitrations can be very interesting, and you'd be surprised what happens in an arbitration. I have literally seen cases where
Whose arbitration? Who are you referring to?
Nene.
Okay.
Don't they still have to go to arbitration?
Well, I believe they're in it right now. Yeah, they're in it presently. So that's what the dismissal was saying. They dismissed it to go to the arbitration mediation. And so we won't know unless they choose to tell us when it's resolved, because those generally are not public. They're not public information. And that's on purpose, because they don't want anybody to know what was the result for Nene versus anyone else. So it kind of goes away. The only reason we even know about it is because instead of answering the petition, NBC filed documents stating that they are seeking to force Nene's team to abide by that mediation. So I believe that they're probably currently in it, or it could be wrapped up already, but they're definitely mediating. And I think it won't be until that is resolved, whatever that looks like, that she would at best have the opportunity to rework with them. And again, it could be how she was able to do the Lifetime show. But again, scripted roles have different rules and a whole different system under the union, which she's in, than unscripted. So they scripted, if she auditioned and she was the best one, they got to give her a shot.
Okay. Well, we are going to be back, you guys, in about an hour. I scheduled it for 10 o'clock because I wasn't sure what time we were going to get done here, but we're going to come back in about an hour, and we are going to talk about that Monique interview, honey, because, baby, shots fired. Absolutely. That's all I got to say.
Now, I want to say, if anyone wants to reach me, I've seen some employment law related cases. I do work with attorney. I partner with a team. We can get you to the right employment attorneys for your state, create the proper team around your legal issue. You can reach my office at 855-4-SIMONE, or you can send an email to simone@redwinelaw.com, and it's Simone with a Y. Just put employment law case or whatever type of case it is in the subject line, and we'll take care of you. Thank you guys for having me, and make sure if you're not subscribed, head on over to Girl Is That Legal and subscribe,
and Tracy
as well as
follow me. Link. Yep, my mom has dropped the link, so you guys make sure that y'all are and we got to get back on our regular schedule. It's been a few months, life been lifing for both of us, but we got to get back. There was a case today. Hold on. There was a case today that I said, I have to reach out to either you or Pam about. Wait a minute, give me a quick second because I screenshotted it. Here it is right here.
It's 855-4-SIMONE. And you spell it SYMONE.
855-4-SIMONE. There you guys go. Sorry about that. Yeah, this lawsuit that Master P and Snoop just filed against Walmart, I think that's going to be interesting.
Oh, what's the gist of it?
So basically, they're suing Walmart and Post Foods for allegedly trying to sabotage their brand with deceptive practices, claiming they purposely hid their cereal in the back of the stores. And there was a video that I saw on TikTok where this guy went in looking for Snoop's cereal, and they told him they were sold out. First of all, they were selling it for $12. Who's buying cereal for $12? And then they said they were out of it, but the guy went in the back and found boxes of it in the back in the storeroom after they said it was sold out.
Good for them. Good for them.
I don't know all of the details, but I definitely think that's going to be an interesting conversation.
It definitely will be. Okay, I'm going to have to take a look at that. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for having me, and y'all have a great evening.
Thank you guys for being here. And I'll see you guys back in an hour. Y'all meet me back here in an hour, okay? All right. Talk to y'all later.